I'm here with Olaf from MarketLogic Software, and he's going to jump into his demo. Just as a reminder, you can put all of your questions in that Q&A chat, and we will get to those at the end of the session. So, Olaf, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Kara, and welcome from my end. My name is Olaf Lenzmann. I'm a co-founder and Chief Innovation Product Officer at MarketLogic, and I want to be talking to you today about how to answer business questions with generative AI. And before we dive right into the topic, just a couple of words about us, MarketLogic, who we are. Our purpose is what we help people make insightful decisions, and what we offer to our customers is an end-to-end platform, software as a service platform for insights engagement, where they can capture all their internal and external knowledge, research, and data, and then have their insights teams develop their insights and connect them with the business decision makers to effectively feed more informed and successful business decisions. But what we see, and what I want to talk about today in our broad customer base, there's one huge problem area. And what we see is that there's more and more data, and there's more and more questions that are coming to the insights teams. There's more sources of data, there's more velocity, there's more volume, and the business has more and more questions. And at the same time, most of the insights functions we work with face the challenge that they have less resources. Plus, there is a growing expectation of near real-time answers to all the questions as they come. So that, of course, is a huge burden for the insights teams, and that puts them under a lot of stress and absorbs a lot of their capacity that they should better invest into the more strategic work, but instead is tied up in the more tactical day-to-day answering those questions, making sense of the data, and serving the requests. And so what we see as a typical moment in the life of insights is that there's this email coming in from a business person, from a marketeer, asking a specific question, saying, hey, what do we know about, for example, the key drivers for using whitening toothpaste in China? And there's a bit of context why that's the case. And now we could, of course, go and, as the insights person, we may want to go in and look at our reports. We may want to use the software like we as MarketLogic provided to go in and search and find relevant content and answer that question. Or ideally, we would want Amanda to find the answer by herself, beginning to start with. And the question now is, how can AI help here to get this question answered in a more effective and quicker way? And of course, everybody's almost sick of it, but ChatGPT is the thing of the day. And let's look at what that can do. And let's just go there and understand what AI does out of the box, so to speak. So let's key in this question to ChatGPT. And of course, I recorded that earlier today. And what it comes back with is, well, yeah, kind of an answer, very superficial, very high level, very generic. And that maybe is not the most surprising finding, that ChatGPT and these large language AI models draw on generic, but also somewhat outdated knowledge, because they've been trained on a certain base of knowledge that is obviously nowhere near the accuracy and the detailed richness of the research that you will have in your proprietary knowledge base. So, of course, it is limited by design. But then even there, can we use the knowledge that it has? Because there is quite a bit of interesting content in there, even though this might be a bit superficial. So let's go further and say, well, where does it come from? What source can I cite? How can I corroborate this statement? It comes back with this, I'm sorry, but as a language model, I don't have that capability, and I cannot give you any of those sources. So that is the second challenge here, that ChatGPT and such language models, they give answers from a huge pool of knowledge they have acquired through the training, but that's all an undifferentiated sea of half facts, and it's unable to attribute that to the sources. So effectively, whatever it tells you is impossible to verify. Well, what then if at least the answers are correct, even if we can't verify them? So let's try something else, and maybe also in this area ask a bit more of a numerical question. And what does it come back with is again, may not have the specific data because it's too generic, but it comes back with a number, and you say, hey, there's the number, that sounds good. But then let's double check in other sources, and we find out, ooh, it actually claimed a number for 2020, which seems to have been the 2019 number. And that is another of the big pitfalls, specifically with these large language models, which is they tend to hallucinate answers that sound extremely convincing, extremely plausible, that are rendered in a very authoritative tone of voice, but that can be somewhat or completely off. So that leaves us with the fact that this wonderful technology, which can do very impressive things, is based only on generic knowledge that it was trained on, cannot verify the statements it makes, and it's prone to coming up with those hallucinations. So, of course, it's great technology for inspirational interactions, but can we really use it for factual answering of questions? And that's what we set out already a year ago to tackle, and we've been working, of course, with state-of-the-art AI at the center, but also with benefiting from a huge pool of customers and a couple of lead customers like Colgate-Palmolive, who have source of data that they work with and we provide and manage for them, and who, of course, also have all the real-world questions and know what good looks like. And on the other end, we have invested and spent a lot of effort in training and tuning and honing the AI towards what we wanted to do. And it turns out what we need to do to make it come back with real, relevant answers to the questions is we need to, of course, start out with all the knowledge assets that are there, with the reports and customers, with the knowledge and insights that exist. And then we need to use the AI to pull out of that the relevant findings, the relevant information that is really useful and usable for answering questions. So we have to make sure that it doesn't misunderstand verbatim quotes for generic ground truths, or that it misunderstands boilerplate text for any relevant research finding. And once we've done that, we need to use the AI to make this searchable and findable, but not findable and searchable in the classic keyword search sense, but using, again, the modern AI techniques of semantic search, of embeddings, which also allow us then to do cross-lingual discovery of relevant facts. So, for example, somebody asking an English question could still discover and find facts that have been recorded in Spanish or German or French assets. So now, once a user comes and asks their question and those relevant assets are found by the semantic search, we further need to apply a very deep analysis of the evidence that has been returned and figure out, does it really speak to the question? Is the context correct? Does it talk about the target group that was asked for? Does it apply to the correct market category? And this is so crucial and critical to control the hallucination problem. And once that has all been filtered, cleaned, and contextualized properly, then and only then we can generate the answer with the large language model technology to come up with a natural answer to the question as it was posed. And with all of that, we can do better than ChatGPT does out of the box for this case. And what we can do is we can generate trusted, grounded in your data, trusted answers to the questions. So what you see here is a screen of product we've built with that technology together with our lead customers, which we're currently in beta on, where you can ask a question from the system is an answer that clearly speaks to your question and that clearly gives you the attribution of the sources, of the assets where this comes from. So you can always directly dive in, drill in, verify, and validate, and of course understand a little bit more about the context. And it is all firmly grounded in exactly the knowledge base and the insights that you and our customers have. But there's also more. By virtue of this evidence screening We can manage the hallucinations. We can even surface content which does not directly speak to exactly the question, but then have the system properly reflect the context of the evidence, properly say, well, this piece of research does not provide information for the market you asked about, but there is general information which may still be relevant to you. So with this, we managed to provide a very, very robust capability to take questions as they are asked in the natural business language, go into the database of knowledge and insights assets that a customer has, and come back and return the relevant answers in a way that is robustly linked to the evidence and that is not hallucinating answers that sound good but have no relation to the truth. And of course, this is something which we make available to our users and specifically also the insights experts in the scope of our Market Logic platform. But what's more is that this kind of interaction also enables completely new approachability to getting insights for business users. And that's why we also provide access to this in other business tools by providing plugins where a user can, from the very situational context where they have a question in the workflow where they are, can just click a button, bring up a screen to ask the question and then continue their work, and so are not expected to go to another system to ask the questions. Also, we know from research that the prime source for information for business users when they have a question is colleagues and peers. And so, of course, we will also mimic and support that kind of behavior and habit by embedding this now in communication tools, where instead of maybe asking your colleague, you also ask the system a very natural question and get a very natural answer with all the links for further validation. And lastly, obviously, also want to have that on the mobile. You want to ask Siri on the go what your question is and get that answer here. So with all these different channels, we can provide a wholly new approachable experience for business users, for marketeers to really make use of these insights. And what we see therefore at the end is for the insights teams, this has a big benefit of to offload work on answering questions to the AI, and therefore to save their precious human intelligence and brain power to look at more of the big points, at the strategic work, to work on the deeper and more forward-looking topics, and also to better use the existing assets they have to generate new derived insights, to generate new knowledge based on what is returned by the AI in a very fluid and quick process. And on the other hand, for business teams, for marketeers, this is really a new way and a new level of engaging with insights and knowledge that is available, because it lowers barriers, it lowers the cognitive load that somebody has to undergo to go to a system, search for something, read reports, understand what they talk about. This is really about asking a question, getting an answer, and then having the opportunity to drill deeper and understand more if you want. And this, of course, is a big time saver for both sides of the house, but also it's a big enabler for further driving an insights culture where using insights and working with insights really becomes part of the daily work and part of the habit. And mostly it doesn't require a fundamental habit change for those who need the insights. So finally, as I said, we have built this product, which is currently in our closed beta and which we are about to launch by end of this quarter. If you were interested to stop searching and start leading and putting your brain cycles to the job of leading instead of acquiring the information, contact us to enlist for a trial and see for yourself how that works on your data, because obviously seeing is believing for this technology. And with this, I already want to close and open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olaf. That was great, very thorough. We have a couple minutes for Q&A, so feel free to drop anything in that chat there. First question is from Bruno. He said, do all sources have to be stored in one place, or can it be reference information on the web as well?
The sources have to be ingested and processed, of course, as part of the analysis phase, but the master source can, of course, reside in other places. That's perfectly possible.
Got it. Thank you. Hopefully that answers the question. And then a question from Luca here. From your experience nowadays, what sort of error rate a model like market logic software experiences?
That's an excellent question. There is a variety of errors that we usually try assessments. There's, on the one hand, the spectrum of, let's say, the usefulness of the answer to the end user. That's one part of the assessment. And the other question is, of course, how often does it actually still give a wrong answer? I'm happy and quite confident to say that the wrong answer problem is now somewhere in the maybe 5% range that we see, which is still something that is being improved, especially because also the system learns from feedback as it's being used in the real world. But we have reached a level of accuracy which is really very much comparable to the accuracy of a person rendering the answer in a normal traditional human supported process.
Perfect. Thank you. And then kind of just a broader question, but can you talk about, where do you kind of envision the future for this? Obviously, this is a great first step, AI answers to questions, but what do you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, we have to start somewhere, and that's step one, but we see this as a first step in a broader range of capabilities we're building to better help our user base, both on the expert as well as on the business user side, to take further value-adding steps of the AI. Start with answering questions, but we really see this evolving to become more and more of a co-pilot to these job roles, to have more advanced support, to also have more advanced recommendations and evaluations that the system could do. But of course, we have to start with this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple more came in. So from Jean, does a model require any tagging or categorizing of information of data sources?
Categorically, no. This is a completely automated system. We drop in the data and the system does the rest. There's no human intervention.
Great. That's what we all like to hear. And then Amanda is asking, is there a limit to types of information it can ingest? For example, raw data direct from a source like CSAT versus reports and white papers.
Yeah, for now, what we are focusing on is ingesting information from reports, focusing on findings, on recorded insights in those reports. For the moment, what we are in the very first phase, not focusing on is the raw data piece, for example, ingesting tables and tables of numbers. That is another extension element. So for now, we're looking at essentially all the narrative, all the textual content that is in there in whatever shape or form.
Perfect. Thanks for answering that. Okay, Kent just asked, can the system handle graphical input or produce any sort of graphical output, like Dolly for insights?
Yeah, we're not. That's an interesting thought. Yeah. In terms of graphical input, what it does obviously is also OCR, so it would also scrape the insights, the screenshots, etc. And what it does not do is now generate full presentations out of that. That, of course, is an interesting thought, which might be layered on top by having a couple of questions, getting the answers, and then feeding that into other existing systems that are out there now that do generate presentations based on skeleton content. Currently, there's no such integration, but that's an interesting thought going forward, of course.
Yeah, that's very interesting. All right, Steven said, to follow up on the integration to ingest data, does the platform have standard integrations built with common CRMs, or does integration with outside databases require a custom solution?
Well, there's maybe two parts to the question. Maybe if I understand it right. So one part is, of course, the ingestion of the data. We have first and foremost built this in a way that it has standardized interfaces to load data into it, which are very, very off the shelf and easy to integrate against. We do have at this point focused on integrating together with our existing software solution, which has a large variety of connectors to other solutions. So our established platform, we also look at providing a standalone solution of this capability to begin with, to enter the space of what we offer later this year. On the other hand, when it comes to integrating with CRMs, for example, in terms of output of consuming the information, like in the one screen I showed, where there's this widget showing up in the business application, that's where we have a standardized widget that can be embedded in other applications.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers your question, Stephen. Okay, I think we got through all the questions here, unless anyone has anything else. Olaf, any final thoughts you want to leave us with today?
I think this general is an extremely fascinating field. I think it has huge potential, and if we want it or not, it will be a dominant force that we'll all have to wrestle with one way or the other very soon. So I can only encourage everybody to get their head around it. And of course, love to go on that journey with you together. But I really think this is the future, which will not replace us all, but which will actually be much more productive and powerful job.
Absolutely. Totally with you there. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you all in the next session. Bye, Olaf.
Thank you.